I'm Wendy Capewell, an experienced counsellor and psychotherapist. I work with so many people who feel that they're the only ones struggling with the issues that they share with me. Possibly, like many of you, they feel so alone. And so the aim of this podcast is to talk to guests who have their own stories to share, their experience of the struggles that they've been through, or maybe they're continuing to live with, offering their insights as well as their inspiring journey. So let me introduce my guest. Well, my guest today is from way across the oceans. She lives in Sydney, and I'm so envious because I love Sydney when I visited it. So I'm going to introduce you to Sue Kennedy. She is the CEO of the Author Academy. So Sue, tell us more about you and what you do.
Thanks, Wendy. It's an absolute pleasure to be here all the way across from the other side of the world. And so I'm a book coach predominantly. I also am an art therapist as well, which I kind of love both. So that's why I thought, how can I do both? Because I don't want to have to decide. So I incorporated the two and created my program that helps people actually write their story that have been through traumatic experiences. So it's a mode of helping them release all of what's happened and heal from it. I think it's very important because if we don't do that, it remains within us and it actually turns into disease. So it's very important to get that out.
Yeah, I think when we've chatted before, we both agree that the body holds that, and unless we release it, it causes untold damage. So, yeah, totally with you. And whereas I use talking therapy mainly, I do use other kinds of therapies on occasions, but I think some people find it hard to speak for whatever reason, and therefore to be able to use art or writing is a wonderfully powerful way of expressing those traumas.
Exactly right. And and I know that a lot of people have gone through some really traumatic stuff, and they may not want to talk about it, and they might even be scared to write about it. But the thing is, I say to them, because they're like, well, hang on, I may not want to publish that. And that's okay. They don't need to publish it. The whole idea around it, I mean, it would be great because you would actually be helping others. But I also understand if they don't want to. So, I'm quite happy for them to then, we can have a burning ceremony if they want to. But the whole idea is to actually get it out and go through that healing process by doing that. So I think it's really important.
Absolutely. And you said you use a particular type of art, and it Neurographica, which I said I had to practice to get it pronounce it properly.
It's not too bad, but it's an unusual name. But I found this tool, wow, it's probably been over 12 months now since I've, maybe even a year and a half now that I found it. And because I do use art as part of my program, as I mentioned, and I thought to myself, hang on a minute, like a lot of people, they're already probably anxious. And if they have to go to a blank canvas, that could be quite frightening. I get that because even sometimes I get to the blank canvas and go, this is a bit scary. What am I going to do? So I get it. So I thought I need to bring something else in. Then when I found Neurographica, I went, that's it. It's perfect. It's actually something that is not like the same, not the same process, but the same end result is achieved, and it's in a gentle way. And with Neurographica, it's about just paper, pen, and some markers. So it's not as confronting, where a blank canvas can be. So this is why I brought, as soon as I saw it, I just went, oh, I need to do this. I need to find out about this and I need to do it. And when I started using it, I went, this is amazing. And this is a tool that I need to, bring into my practice. So hence why I went through the training and everything to get my certificate to be able to do it. So
Okay.
yeah.
So do they start with are your clients starting with something? So is there, rather than a blank canvas, do they start with an outline, a picture, or something? Have they got some kind of guide to start with?
So all we do is we get a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Just a blank piece of paper, which is not as scary. But then we sort of talk about things, and then I get them to then start drawing on the piece of paper. And as that's happening, I'm asking them questions, and it's amazing the things that come up that, when you're doing that, it's really powerful. And you don't realize, like, I know when I was doing it myself, I would just be doing it and thinking nothing's really happening here. And then at the end or even halfway through it, I'm like, oh my goodness, I could see things appearing.
Yeah.
And not even things, not even if you may not even see it in the drawing itself, but as you're doing it, and then what we do as we do it is called is rounding. So what we do is when we draw the lines, we round all the sharp corners.
Okay.
Because they're the things that actually can cause anxiety. So, and the rounding process is really calming and very relaxing. And as you're doing that, your subconscious is, having a chat with you and bringing up all kinds of information. And you're like, oh my goodness, I never thought that. And so, I'm obviously asking questions, as we do as therapists. We ask questions and all of a sudden they go, oh my goodness, I'd forgotten that. Or, wow, I now can understand why I went through that, or why I'm going through what I'm going through now. It's amazing. It's really very powerful.
Yeah. I've not used that, but I have used other kinds of art therapy. For example, well, one of the things I did when I was in training, I mean, decades ago now, but it was interpretation of dreams. And in interpretation, people will often say, well, what does a horse represent, or what does a tree represent? But it was very interesting because I was working, with a partner in the kind of what we were doing. And I said, well, no, nothing. I said, I haven't had any dreams. I just dreamt my eye was sore. And then she started saying, well, the eye is the window to the world. I said, yeah, my eye was hurting, but nobody could see it. And I was asking people, can you see my eye is sore? And she said, but you're in pain, and nobody's noticing the pain that you're in. And I thought, wow. Because it was true, it was. She knew something about me, but somebody else observing it, somebody else witnessing that. When I thought, oh yeah, I just dreamt I had a sore eye, but nothing to it. So yeah, that's just, yeah. So I think that drawing, I can see how powerful that could be. I've also used sand trays. Have you ever worked with sand trays?
I've known a couple of people that are sand tray therapists, and I have, they've like sort of shown me and, given me a little go at it. So yeah, that's quite powerful too.
Yeah, and it's interesting how you just don't realize by did a workshop with that, and it was just using figures and shapes and shells and beads and goodness knows what else. And it just created a whole, yeah, that was what my life was at the time. And what I'd used some beads that I'd kind of circled the whole thing with. And then I had some beads left over and I just twirled them, not even thinking. And my colleague said, "Have you looked at the shape that's left?" No. So she turned it round and there was a heart shape there. And it was, oh, yeah. So I suppose what I wanted to share those things with, we don't realize how powerful the subconscious is. And I just think that endorsing what you're doing, it must be incredibly powerful.
Oh, it is. Like, and the results that I see my clients get, even I'm shocked, I'm like, oh my goodness, it just very, yeah, I can't stop saying how powerful it is, because the insights that come through are just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Really is.
Yeah, I can see that, and I'm sure it's quite emotional for your clients as well, and you as a witnessing it.
Mm.
Really
Yeah.
really emotional. I know I well up at times when I'm talking. So just seeing that, someone seeing something different or just having some insights is, I don't know, just amazing. Yeah.
Well, one of my clients, for instance, has been going to a counselor for many, many, many years. And we sat down and did a few sessions, and it was only like maybe 2 sessions in. And the things that were coming up, she said, oh my goodness, I just can't believe this, because I've been going to my counselor for so long and we've never, ever uncovered as much as we have in this short amount of time.
Wow.
So I just went, wow, okay. I mean, I felt good, because I thought, well, I've really achieved something pretty amazing. And not to say that her counselor isn't good, because
Mm,
she is,
mm.
but it's just, I think it's, different processes, that different modalities work differently for people. So yeah, may not, for one person, it may not, open up such a big, you know, um, picture of what's going on, where for others, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, yeah, they could go and do another process and find that works or does not work. So it's you've just got to keep trying and see what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Um, so do you work with people face to face, or you do it online? I mean, can you do it online?
Both. Oh, yeah, you can do it online. So yeah, both. I mean, Zoom has really, opened up. COVID. Thank you, COVID, because it is a lot easier to do things via Zoom. So, and if this way I can work with anyone in the world,
That's
because otherwise they'd have to come to my place, I'd have to go to their place, and that just wouldn't, I'm sure that, if I had to go to England, for instance, the airfares and everything, like, it would be a very expensive session.
yeah, that would be very limiting, wouldn't it, as well? So yeah, I think I was curious, because I guess I just wanted to check that would work online. But yeah, that's great if it does, because
Definitely,
I
definitely,
think
because
sometimes people feel, I think some people like that face to face and being close to some, but sometimes that sense of distance, it's not quite so intimidating. Maybe they feel safer, I wonder.
yeah, and that's it. Like, some people are more comfortable face to face, some aren't. And then it's the same goes with some people who are happy to, work in a group, where others would prefer one-to-one. Same thing, I find anyway.
Yeah. So I'm curious also, I think that's amazing, and thank you for sharing that, because I'm really intrigued by it. Also the book coaching, how do you support people to write their story?
So I do have a 5-step process that I go through. And of course, as we've just talked about, the art component is one of it, the parts of it, because it's where I help them if they get blocked. So it helps them unblock, whether that's around this, actually writing the story, or if it's just, whatever's blocking them. But it also could be their writing is fine.
Mm.
It could be just something else that's blocking them, from moving forward in anything, like in life in general. So, it can be helpful on all levels. So, But yeah, I then go through, of course, the usual stuff of, how we outline the book and all that kind of stuff. And of course, I hold their hand all the way through it. And of course, if we hit, up against something that's a bit difficult, then I help and work through that with them. I would never leave them alone, if they were struggling with something. So I make sure that I'm there for them and help them through that. And yeah, so basically that's kind of it. And then of course the program does include the professional editing and design, and of course printed copies of the book as well. So
Wow.
yeah, so
It's a whole, it's the one-stop shop, basically.
it's a comprehensive coaching program.
Brilliant. I think that's great, because I think I wrote a book 7 years ago. I know that if I were to write it again, it'll be very different. It's interesting, isn't it? But I just found that whole thing, it's it is quite a mammoth task to do, and I did quite a lot of it on my own. So it was very much. I did get some support, and definitely, but it was, even just the writing, I think, can feel quite a lonely process. And I've got a couple of friends who are authors. They write nonfiction, and when they talk about how many words they've written in a day and how many times they've reread it and edited it, and I just think that is yes, I mean, they're professionals, so but I just think, wow, that I don't know if I'd have the stamina anymore to do that. So it'd be
It's a
really nice to have
task.
somebody guiding you by your side. Yeah.
Well, I was the same. Like back when I wrote my very first book, I wished I would have had a book coach, because it wasn't as easy. It's easier now, but even still, I would want someone to help me
Yeah.
if I was, going to undertake that. I mean, I don't need to, but if I wasn't a book coach, I would be seeking help, because it's a big, big thing to do, and especially if you're writing about your story, that can be quite difficult as well. So having someone there to hold your hand and, be there if you need to lean on, then, it's a great way to do it.
I think that's really nice, because um again, if you're writing your story, if we're writing our own story, it's very emotional, and blocks can happen, but equally it can be, I can't write this, how can I write this? It feels, oh, I should imagine all kinds of emotions come up, kind of, even talking, I noticed, my clients will share all the emotions that come up for them when I never get them to talk about the events, because that is re-traumatizing them. But I think
Exactly.
just the fact of talking around it's and what they were feeling as a result of it is very, very difficult to deal with. So it's great that you are there to support them. Yeah, I think it's really,
Definitely.
yeah.
Thank
So do you work when you're coaching? You're coaching your clients with your author, with the writing. Is it one-to-one, or do you have groups? Do they bounce off each other? How do you do that?
I have had groups of people. I don't currently, but it's funny, lately I've had people that want to just do one-to-one, but I have done it in groups as well. And it's amazing how you always get the right people in the group, and they're meant to all be there with each other, because, like, for example, I remember one time that we had two ladies and they didn't know each other, and
Right.
they ended up actually sitting next to each other, but they had both lost children.
Oh,
And I thought, wow, how, like, it blew my mind when I thought about it. I went, oh my goodness, they've actually like sat next to each other. And then of course they started, when we went around, we were talking, and then, they were sharing stories. And as they got to know each other, they realized they both had that in common.
yeah,
And so they connected, and it was good because they were able to support each other. And, because they fully understood what it was like to
yeah.
lose a child. So they were able to actually Yeah, be there for each other. So it's amazing how that happens. It blows my mind every time.
Mm. Yeah, there's something quite therapeutic again in knowing it's not just you. I think,
Mm.
yeah. So I think that's when therapy groups work. So I imagine the book groups work too.
Well, and I think when they get to share and talk, like they're expressing themselves to everyone else. So speaking it out loud is such a, yeah, as you say, therapeutic, and it's very beneficial for them, on their journey of healing. So it's a very powerful thing.
Great. I've really enjoyed chatting to you today. It's been fascinating. Thank you for your time. What is one thing that you would say to people? What could they take away with them? What was a little
I, I think the biggest thing is I just think if you've got a story, I'd love you to think about the fact that it is a good story. It's good enough to share with others. And just to keep in mind that your story is more than likely going to impact other people's lives and help them. So, keeping that in mind when you're writing your book, knowing that you're actually helping others as well as yourself, I think is just beautiful to be able to do that. So yeah, don't let fear stop you from writing your story.
Oh, that's great advice. Such great advice, Sue. Thank you. I will put all your details in the show notes, but what's one easy way that people can get in touch with you?
So I've got I think it's going to be in the show notes, but the website is authoracademy.com.au/gifts, GIFTS. And there's a whole heap of little gifts on there for you, free gifts. So, and there's also a section there where you can actually book in a brainstorming or heartstorming. It's not brainstorming. I like to call it heartstorming session.
Oh, that's just lovely. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been an absolute delight talking to you today. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Wendy. It's been my absolute pleasure.
I hope you found this episode interesting as well as helpful. Do get in touch if you would like to learn more about working with me. My email address is info@wendycapewell.co.uk. Take good care of yourself. Until next time.